All right, good people. Today I am making some Carolina style pulled chicken. And I'm telling you, it's got all that tangy, smoky flavor that'll fool even the pork lovers. And you're gonna love it. But first, it starts with the brine. So let's get into it. I'm using bone in and skin on thighs. Plus, we have a little breast meat there. And I keep those bones and skin. And of course, I'm going to keep a little bit of that fat on it. So while it's cooking, it's going to give us all that flavor. I'm going to let that chicken soak up some love. In other words, some flavor. This is what helps to make it juicy. So this is a step you do not want to skip. Now, of course, you can soak this for a couple hours, but it is best to do it overnight if you can. In the morning, just a few more simple steps, and you can throw it right in the crock pot. Of course, you can also cook this in your oven, slow cooking it that way, or on a grill, which is even better if you have the time. And like most brines, you got to have a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar. I'm using brown sugar. I'm using cracked black pepper. I'm going to throw just a little bit of the apple cider vinegar with some bay leaves there. And I'm going to smash up 3 large garlic cloves. This is a must in the brine. Oh yeah, I can't wait to cook this. Now usually after the brine, we make a sauce. What makes the Carolina style different is it's vinegar forward. I love how it pairs well with a nice, sweet, creamy coleslaw. And of course, you got to top it with some hot sauce, right? Now back to the brine. It is important to make sure it's stirred really well. Of course, as you can see, I probably should have stirred it before I added the chicken, but it's done. And the next step is an optional step, but I think it does great if you're going to put this in a crock pot. It's really important to add even more flavor. The first thing I'm going to do after we finish brining is take out those chicken thighs and just pat them dry. I'm going to actually just sear them in some hot oil just for a few minutes to try to get the skin just a little brown. Now, as you can see, I have fat on that chicken. I know our first instinct when we are cleaning our chicken is to remove that fat, but not for this dish. It's going to melt away when we're slow cooking. Okay, we got this chicken going. Now it's time to whip up this bold vinegar-based sauce. Y'all ready? All right, here's what brings that zing. That's 1 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. You can go down to 1 cup. We're going to add a 1/3 cup of water. And of course, that Shire sauce. You know I can't say it. Remember, the recipe will be down below for you to connect to the website. That's everydaydana.com. I've added some spice. Now, you know this depends on you. But even if you don't want it spicy, just make sure you add just a pinch. I have 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. You can up that up if you want to add more balance for that tanginess to 3 cups. And I have 1 teaspoon of onion powder and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. This is a really easy sauce to put together. I've added 1 tablespoon of yellow mustard, and we're going to salt and pepper this according to taste. Now I've added about a 3/4 teaspoon of salt and pepper. And we just want to mix that up really well before we add the chicken in. And it's just that simple. Now, if you're going to add more chicken, of course, go ahead and double that sauce. This is a pretty large crock pot here, so it's perfect if you need more for a shindig. And it's important that we can just get all that chicken down in that slow cooker. I cook for low. That's my preference, and that's between 5 and 6 hours. Or you can cook on high for about 3 to 4 hours, just until that chicken is tender and shreds easily. Look at that. Doesn't that look beautiful? And now it's done. Now for the shredding part. Now I am deboning it and taking off the chicken. And as you can see, it is falling apart. It is super juicy. Now don't go because I'm not finished with that sauce. And also I got a tip on how to bring the smokiness into this chicken. Now if you don't have a meat shredder or what we call the claw, you can shred it with your hands or just using 2 forks. Y'all look at that texture. The dark meat pulls apart just like pork. And the flavor, don't get me started. You know I already taste tested. Now this part is just for fun, totally optional. I take a little of that shredded thigh meat, pop it under the broiler for a few minutes just to get those crispy edges. You know, it adds a little texture, just a little crunch. Like I said, it's totally optional, y'all. And here we have those chopped chicken thighs and chicken breasts there. And I love to use a mixture of the two. I think those thighs bring all that good flavor. And of course, chicken breasts actually just holds in that flavor. And it does a good job of making you think it's pork without the pig. Oh, it's totally affordable too. Now, of course, what's next is we got to add some smoky in. That, of course, is optional. But what makes you think of a barbecue is the smoke. You can do that by adding any smoked seasonings. I use smoked paprika, of course. I put that back in the sauce. At this point, you're not finished with the sauce. You're going to taste it. You want to make sure that it is nice and flavorful. Um, in this case, I added a little bit more Shire sauce. And of course, I added probably about 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. Now, you can go with smoked salt. They actually have smoked pepper as well if you didn't want to add smoked paprika. Now, but I'm not finished because I'm going to show you what you can do the next day if you decide to, if you have leftovers. And I'm just going to add that back in. Now, your crock pot should probably be put on, not crock, I should say crock pot. Everybody has, it's a slow cooker. But, you know, we use crock pot for even if it's an off brand. Now, we want to put that shredded chicken back in that sauce now. All we're going to do is let it sit. Now, you're going to let it sit according to your taste, because the longer you let it soak, the more tangier it gets. And remember, this is a vinegar forward sauce. There's no ketchup, no tomato sauce, or anything. For me, I keep it in the sauce. The tangier, the better, because I like to top it with a nice, sweet coleslaw, and that really contrasts that zing of that vinegar. If you have to go low on it, I would say at least 30 minutes. And now it's for my tip. The next day, because you can see that the sauce gelled up, I'm going to put this on the grill. I'm just going to smoke this anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. And it's real simple on the grill. You see my wood chunks there. And of course, that's my pootie. And that really added that extra smoke and made me feel like I spent hours cooking this on the grill. That's how great it tasted. So I hope you try this. And there you have it. Carolina pulled chicken, no barbecue sauce, just bold, briny, and vinegar forward. And that's the kind that I grew up with. Let me know what's your favorite type of pulled anything, pork, chicken. And if you're into big meats with big flavor, go check out my citrus garlic pork buck necks. It's a whole different vibe, but it's just as juicy and just as worth every bite. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.